We're now going to start working on our leg where we're going to sew that invisible zip on that side seam. Now I have gone and I've pinned my front and my back pattern piece together, and I've also sewn it. Now when you are sewing it, I want you to sew your regular stitch length up to where your zip will be opening to, and then you're going to do a securing stitch. You're reverse stitching for me. You're going to go then to a longer stitch length and you're going to then close it up to the waistline. Now that is the area that once we've basted our zip on, we're going to open it up. This is going to help us to actually sew this invisible zip without having any movement. Now when I decided where I'm going to actually sew to, I just wanted to show you what I do. I go and I measure down from that waistline where my stitching line will be. We've got a seam allowance of 1.5 centimeters or 5/8 of an inch. So I actually go and I mark that on the waistline so that I can make sure when I am going to place this that I've got the zipper slide just under that stitching line. Then from there, once I've placed it like this, I decide up to where am I going to open it. Now I always go and buy a longer zip for myself. I find it's easier to have the longer zip to be able to move the slider out of the way, and you are going to see when I'm taking you to the sewing machine how I'm going to do that. Now I want to sew it up to, I would say, about this section, and I just want to see that is really where I've gone and I've done my regular sewing stitch to. So I'm just making a mark for myself there. So from the hem up to here, it's my regular stitch length that I'm using. Make sure you reverse stitch, and I'm repeating it again. I want you to get this correct. Make sure you reverse stitch, go to a longer stitch, a basting stitch, and you are going to then close it up for me. Then once you've done this, you're going to go and you're pressing the seam open for me so that we can pin the zip in place. Now with the seam pressed open, we're now going to take our invisible zip and we're going to baste it now onto our seam allowance. We are not going to be catching the front part of our pants. So as you can see here, I have gone and I've marked again 1.5 centimeters or 5/8 of an inch from that waist edge so that I know when I place my zip where I'm going to start with my zip. At this section here, I've also just marked for myself where I'm going to be stopping the sewing. This is where I actually went from my regular stitch length to my basting stitch. Now when I'm placing it like this, please make sure that the smooth part of the invisible zip is on the fabric. The roughness of the teeth that you can feel there is actually showing up towards you. So I'm just going to place it now, and every time that I'm going to be pinning, I'm going to pin, as I said, only on the seam allowance, but I'm going to place it, I'm lifting it up, and I'm making sure that this groove that I can see there, which is going to be the opening of my zip, is actually lining up perfectly with this where I can see that open seam that I've pressed. So I'm just making sure everything is lining up, and I'm going to start pinning it. So I think I'm going to pin one side and then I'll come back and I'll pin the other side. So all I keep doing, I'm lifting it there, making sure I'm placing it perfectly on that line that I can see from the seam, and I'm going to pin it. And I'm actually now going to go and pin it all the way to the bottom, and I'm going to pin this side as well. Please make sure, again, you're only pinning the seam allowance. We are not going to be sewing and catching this fabric. One other thing that I'm also going to do when I'm going to baste it now, because after I've pinned, I'm just going to hand baste this. I'm going to make sure that I baste it basically to the section where I know, and I think I'm just going to go about 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch just below that mark that I've made for myself. That is where I'm going to be sewing to when I'm sewing on my sewing machine. So I'll also be basting to that section just so that I know that everything is held in place. This section can be loose. It's easier for us when we're going to pull that zipper slide down to get it out of the way. I've pasted my zip on. I just wanted to draw your attention to this section where the zipper slide is actually in the way. You'll see I actually stopped with my basting before that. When I open up my basting stitch here now, then I will go back and I'll make sure that I place this section correctly. For now, I can't really get it properly sewn in on that section because of the width of that slide being there. Now, once we've sewn it in place, and also here you can see I do have a little bit of a flap left, I'm going to turn it this way, and we're now actually going to start unpicking this basting stitch that we do have there. So I'm just going to pick it up with my unpicker. I know in South Africa we talk about unpicking and our unpicker. I think other parts in the world are talking about a seam ripper, and you are ripping the seam open. And I'm just sharing this with you, it was actually so funny when I was working with Glenda for 2 months. It was about 2 years ago, when we did a one-on-one with someone, and I was talking about unpicking the seams. It was actually became such a joke that everybody started eventually saying unpicking when we had to rip the seam open. But as you can see, I am just opening up this section, and I'm going to open it up to where my regular stitch start, where I've actually secured it. It won't pull open. You can see I can actually pull it open a little bit, and it's not going to be pulling open when I hit that section. So I can see that's still long stitches that I have there. It's just opening up for me. And I think if I look at that, one more stitch, I can see that from here I've really secured it. And once I've done this, I really make sure I get all these threads out. I am not wanting to catch them in that zipper teeth, because I might have a problem then opening up. So let's just see the section there. That's actually not wanting to move there, so I'm just going to just clean it up that way. Now once we've opened up that seam, if I put it like this, you can actually already see what that zip is going to look like once it's sewn. So now I'm just going to go and open this. And when I get to this bottom section, I'm actually going to use this, and I can't remember the English name for it. I'll have to go Google it and I'll actually put it in. But I am going to use this now to just grab that zipper slide and pull it through. If you don't have one of these, you can always use a tweezer. It's easy to grip it with a tweezer as well, and I'm just bringing it all the way through to that section. So when it's open now like that, you don't see the zipper slide, which makes it easier for me to sew on this section. Now at the top where I couldn't sew where the slide was, can you see it is opening up that little bit for me there? So I'm just going to go back to it, and I can see my fold that I've pressed there, and I'm just going to just do maybe 2 stitches to baste it in place, so that when I start working with my invisible zip foot, that I'm not going to have any movement of my zip happening on that section. So let me go do that now, and then I'm going to meet you at my sewing machine, and we're going to sew in our invisible zip. Now, when I sew my invisible zip, I always use an invisible zipper foot. I know that some people do use their regular zip foot, but I find I do get a perfect finish when I do use this foot. I think for sewing garments, we all need this invisible zip foot. We all need an edge stitch foot. I think those are the 2 feet we cannot do without. Now, if you look at my invisible zip foot, you're going to see that I do have 2 grooves there. I've got my left and my right groove. So every time when I'm going to be sewing, these zipper teeth will be actually opening up in this groove. So I don't even have to go now and press the zipper teeth to the one side so that I can get my stitch right underneath that section there. This is automatically doing everything for me. So let's just put this on my machine now, and let's just put that foot up. There we go, and I'm just going to quickly just bring my thread to the bottom. And here, if you are new to invisible zip, sewing an invisible zip, I'm going to suggest go to a slightly longer stitch length just to make sure you're getting it right. If you do need to then go and unpick any of the stitches, then at least you've got a bigger stitch. You can always go back again and do it with a regular stitch. I'm going to work with my regular stitch that I have been working, which is 2.7. Now as I turn my pants like this, and I'm just turning it and opening up the seam allowance, we are sewing on the seam allowance section. We are not catching any part of our fabric that's going to be showing on the right side of our pants. So as I'm placing it like this, you are going to see that the zipper tape is is to the right, my zipper teeth is to the left. So I'm going to now work with my groove that's on the left, and that will be then uncurling or rolling the zipper teeth open so that I can get my stitch into that section. So as I have it here now, I'm just starting to unroll it just that little bit so that I can get it placed correctly. And let me just go again. I am sitting a little bit further away, so there we go. It looks like it's in there. There we go. I can see that it's actually opening up that zipper teeth for me. Now here as well, I already know with my machine, if I go one needle position to the left, I actually get it really nice and close in that section over there. So I'm just going to go one needle position to the left. This is something that you've got to see on your machine, what is going to work best for you. So all I'm going to do from here now, and I hope I've got my threads there at the back, I'm going to start with my sewing. I'm going to do my securing stitch, and that's all I'm doing. I'm just guiding it. My basting stitch is holding my zip in place for me where I want it to be, and that groove, as you can see, it's just rolling the zipper teeth open. We really want to get that stitch as close as possible in that section that rolls open. And I'm just going to make sure I'm guiding it. That's all I have to do. And I can also see up to where I've sewn, but when I open up here, I'll also see where my securing stitch was, where I can't, where it doesn't open up anymore. So I'm just going to sew past that section. And when I do get to the section, I'm just rolling this away so that I can go past there, making sure again, move your fabric out of the way. We don't want to catch a little bit of the fabric in this section where I'm sewing. So you can see there was my mark. That is where my pants is actually, or that seam is close. I'm just going to go just past that, even 1/4 of an inch past that will be fine. I'm going to reverse stitch there. There we go. That's the one side done. Now we're going to do our other side. So when I'm doing it there, again, I'm sewing from the top down. So now I'm moving all the fabric to this side. So just lay your front and your back pattern piece on top of each other, opening up this section. Now again, my tape is on the left side. I just want to move everything out of the way here. There we go. My tape now is on the left side. The teeth is to the right side of that tape. So that means I'm going into my right groove that I have. And again, let's just see if I can grab it there. There we go. You can see it is perfectly in that groove. So as I'm going to sew now, it will just be opening up that zip for me. Again, I'm going to start with a bit of a securing stitch there. And I'm going to go all the way to that bottom again, and I'm going to stop exactly where I stopped when I did this side of my tape. Just keep moving your fabric out of the way. You don't want to catch it. And you can see I'm just guiding it. That zipper foot is doing all the work for me. Just want to make sure I can feel I've got fabric at this bottom section. Let's just move it out of the way. There we go. Let's just see everything is flat. And here now, because I've sewn the side, I can't really open it up as much, but I am being very careful on this section. Alright, so that is now the zip sewn. So all I'm going to do now again is just bring this back up. There we go. And I'm just going to be pulling it all the way up now. So if we look at my pants now, and I'm just smoothing it flat, you can see we've got a beautiful seam there where the invisible zip is. You can see even where I've gone to that bottom section, it is closed really beautifully on that section. I've just got to go and give it a press again so that everything is nice and flat. I've now pressed the seam, and I just wanted to give you a final look of what the zip area looks like. Now I am putting it over my seam roll because my side seam is shaped to fit my hip. So I'm just giving it a little bit of a curve so that you can see that final look. Now, as you see on this area, you cannot see the zipper teeth at all. It actually just looks like a continuous seam line that I do have. On this section over here, where we actually have the finished area or that closed area, you can also see that it's a smooth transition going from the zip into the regular seam that we have.